My name is Talia Monroe. I'm 36, and this story starts on a day that looked like celebration, but ended everything I thought I knew about family. It was a New Year's Day brunch in Baltimore. One of those loud, smile-too-hard kinds of family gatherings where everything is fine, but no one really breathes right. I was halfway through my plate, eggs, toast, half-warm coffee, when I felt a presence beside me. Small. Intentional. A child's hand tilted her half-eaten plate over mine, her leftovers dumped straight onto my food like I was just the trash can they couldn't find. Then she looked at me, sharp as anything, and said, "Mom says you're family garbage." My fork didn't move. My face didn't move. I didn't scan the room for witnesses. I knew they were watching. Of course they were. They always do when something cruel is about to be said, but no one wants to claim it. I just stared at the ruined plate. My appetite didn't leave me, it just went silent. And deep inside, something solidified. Not a tear. A decision. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Later that night, the group chat dimmed after everyone went home, that awkward, lingering silence. Then my phone lit up. It was a message from my mother. "You're out of our lives." Two reactions appeared beneath it. Quick, effortless taps. Like it was easier to cut someone off than to look them in the eye. I smiled. I typed one line back. "Fine. Everything in my name disappears tomorrow." Then I left the group chat. By midnight, they were panicking, one message after another, stammering and fractured like people just waking up to a silence they never thought could exist. But before I get into what came next, what he said, what I walked out on, tell me, what time is it where you are right now? And where are you listening from? I want to know how far this story will travel. That night, back in my apartment, the silence felt bigger than my walls. My phone buzzed endlessly against the kitchen counter like it didn't belong to me anymore. Like it was just an object holding other people's noise. I turned on the kitchen light, filled the kettle. Same motions I've done for years. But something inside me had stopped bending around other people's problems. It had stiffened. My name is Talia Monroe. I have no pets, no kids, no partner to debate over dinner plans. I have a stable job in warehouse operations, a one-bedroom flat I pay for on time. My credit score is the kind that makes banks flirt with me. None of that is why my family needed me. They needed my name. Have you ever felt like the glue holding everything together while no one even checks if you're breaking? Let me know in the comments. You're not alone. To be continued in part 2. In the next part, you'll learn exactly how my name became the silent signature on every problem my family refused to handle. And why I stayed for far too long. You'd think being the responsible one in the family earns you some respect. Maybe even a little grace. But all it really did was make me invisible. My younger sister, Brielle, she's 3 years behind me, and she's been the radiant center of the Monroe universe since birth. When we were kids, it was shiny tap shoes and custom birthday cakes. Now it's a leased SUV she can't afford, an image she can't sustain, and a daughter named Amina, the same one who dumped leftovers on my plate, already learning I don't count. The way my family leaned on me wasn't casual. It was systematized. When Mom and Dad nearly lost their home to back taxes and a mortgage they didn't understand, I took out the personal loan. 4 figures every month, gone before I even see my check. When Brielle wanted a safer car for Amina, the dealership wouldn't approve her a loan. Guess whose signature made the lease happen? Guess whose account still bleeds for the payment, the tolls, the insurance? When Mom's job cut her off from health coverage, I added her to my company plan. And when Dad's medication got too expensive, I gave the pharmacy my card to keep on file. Even Amina's after-school coding club? Billed directly to me. Cute, right? That's not even touching the family phone plan, the streaming subscriptions, or the internet bill at their house, the one I haven't lived in since I was 22. None of this was ever asked for. It just migrated to me, like I was the family's financial gravity. At first, it came wrapped in compliments. "Talia, you're so organized. We'd be lost without you." That flattery, just the sugar coating on an assumption. They never really said it out loud, but the belief was built in. Talia will fix it. She always does. And I did. God, I did. Until it didn't feel like helping anymore. It felt like I was financing a fantasy where I never got to exist. Do you know what it feels like to be praised, only when you're being used? Drop a broken heart if this is hitting home. Standing in that tiny kitchen with my phone still buzzing like a wasp on the counter, I finally asked myself something terrifying. When was the last time anyone in my family asked what all this was costing me? I could list every due date, every password, every login for their comfort. But not one person could tell you what I like to do on a Sunday afternoon. I used to tell myself, this is what grown daughters do. You help until they catch up. You don't keep score. But that night, I realized something even scarier than keeping score. They never even thought I had a life of my own to protect. And when the kettle clicked off and the water boiled, something inside me did too. I picked up my phone, not to answer them, but to open my banking app. And that was the moment everything started to unravel. To be continued in part 3. Next, I'll show you what I saw when I finally looked at my bank account with clear eyes, and how I started pulling the plug on a system built on my silence. I've scrolled past the recurring payments section of my banking app 100 times. Always too busy, too tired, too scared, if I'm honest. But that night, something in me stopped blinking. I looked. Really looked. My rent and utilities were right at the top. Normal. Then came everything else. A loan for a house I don't live in, Mom and Dad's place, my name. A lease payment for a crossover SUV I've never driven, Brielle's pride, my responsibility. A premium health plan with 3 dependents, my paycheck, their doctor visits. A charge for an after-school coding club, sweet little Amina's, but billed to me. 4 family phone lines, Mom, Dad, Brielle, and Amina's tablet. Internet and streaming services tied to their address, not mine. I sat there, eyes stinging, just scrolling. Each line wasn't just a payment, it was a story. A silent record of who was allowed to exhale and who wasn't. I opened a note on my phone and made a list. 1 column, the bills. Next column, who they actually served. I didn't use digits. I wrote out the numbers in words. $435. $720. $89. That way, I had to feel each one. And for the first time, it hit me. This wasn't generosity. This was a second life I had been secretly funding, while shrinking my own. I wasn't just holding people up. I was disappearing myself. So I started cutting the cords. The car lease? I messaged the company. Asked them how to stop being the automatic payer. They said I couldn't be removed from the contract, but I could stop the draft. Done. The phone plan? I logged in, labeled each line, Mom, Dad, Brielle, Amina. Mine was the only one I needed. Canceling the extra lines had a penalty, sure, but cheaper than another year of resentment. Click. Scheduled. The house loan? I didn't touch the contract. I just stopped the auto transfer. Let the bank send the reminders this time. The after-school club had a neat little toggle to end auto billing. The site warned me that Amina would lose her place without payment. Let them decide what she keeps. Health insurance. That would take time. I saved the documents. Marked the dates. I'd remove them properly when the window opened. By the end of the night, I wasn't just staring at numbers anymore. I had a map. A breakdown of every way I'd been made responsible for their comfort, without my consent. My phone was still vibrating with messages I refused to open. I silenced it, closed my laptop, sat in the same small kitchen that had always felt too tight, and for the first time, it didn't feel full of everyone else's weight. It felt mine. Engagement break. Have you ever made a list of what you give to people who never say thank you? Try it. It's eye-opening. If you've already done it, tell me, what shocked you most? To be continued in part 4. Next, the fallout begins. When my phone starts ringing, and the people who used me as their safety net finally feel what it's like to fall. A little before midnight, the quiet in my apartment shifted. Not because anything had changed in the room, but because they finally noticed something had. My phone lit up again. Notifications stacked. Panic, thick and fast. At the top were 2 alerts from my bank. 1, the draft for the house loan had failed. 2, the car lease payment had bounced. The tone was so cold, so neutral. But I knew that language was now landing in their inboxes too. Below that, texts. Dozens. First from Brielle. What's going on with the car payment? Why's it not pulling like normal? Fix this. Your name's on it. Then more, sharp, blaming, furious. Like always, her tone carried the same old message. You're the net. We fall, you catch. I didn't respond. Next was my mom, Lorraine. She'd forwarded the loan alert with a guilt-laced paragraph. We're so close to losing the house. Don't do this. It's our home. I know you're hurt, but family doesn't walk away over a child's poor choice of words. Funny how fast a slur becomes just a poor choice when the bills come due. Then came my dad, Walter. I didn't even recognize the number. He didn't waste time on sweetness. You're being reckless. You signed your name, Talia. You're responsible. Grown adults don't play games with mortgages. I drank a glass of water while reading his texts, like it was just another email from a utilities company. And for the first time ever, I didn't feel the need to explain. No fixing. No defending. No, I'm sorry, but... Just peace. The only person who had ever seen the outline of this financial nightmare was Rod. We'd met at work years ago. He was a senior analyst who did part-time consulting. Once, after I mentioned helping my family, just until things evened out, he looked at me and said, "Bring it all. In a folder. Everything." He was the first person who made me feel like I was allowed to draw a line. So I scrolled past the chaos for my family and opened his old message. I typed, I shut off the drafts. The car, the house, the club, the extras. All of it. Is that enough? What else should I do to protect myself? I didn't expect a reply that night. But it came. He wrote, "You can't fix what adults won't take ownership for. Stopping the drafts was step 1. Now, call your bank. Get formal stop payments. Download everything. Statements, confirmations. Save proof." Then he ended with a line I'll never forget. If they ever accuse you of abandoning them, the paper trail will show a decade of the opposite. I stared at that sentence. I read it again. And again. Because that was it, wasn't it? I hadn't abandoned anyone. I had been abandoned. Repeatedly. Every time they handed me a bill with a smile. Every time they left me out but kept my card in. Have you ever had someone flip the script, accuse you of walking away, when all you did was finally stop bleeding for them? Tell me if this hit a nerve. To be continued in part 5. In the final part, I'll tell you what happened when we met face to face. The diner. The folder. The truth laid out, line by line. And how it felt to walk away and never look back. We met at a corner booth in a diner that didn't ask questions. Just chipped mugs, the smell of burnt coffee, and people minding their own pain. Mom and Dad sat across from me. Brielle slid in beside me. Amina took the edge. A perfect picture of family unity, unless you knew who'd been holding it all together from behind the curtain. Nobody spoke at first. Then Dad leaned in. "This game ends now," he said. "Mortgages aren't weapons. You don't gamble with people's homes." Mom twisted the menu in her hands. "I haven't slept. You're angry, we get it. But this isn't you. You don't abandon your parents over a child's mouth." Brielle didn't soften. "You signed the lease. You're still responsible. I need that car, Talia. You know I can't be out here driving some beater with my daughter." Every sentence hit like a choreographed routine. I was still supposed to catch the damage. Still the net. I didn't speak. I just pulled a folder from my bag and opened it in front of them. 10 years of house loan payments. Lease statements for a car I'd never driven. My health plan listing them as dependents. Bills from the after-school program. Phone records for devices I didn't own. None of them reached for the papers. Dad looked at the dates. "Why didn't you ever tell us the total?" Mom started to say she'd have helped, then stopped, because the evidence was right in front of her. She never asked. Brielle only stared at the line where the car payment had failed. "If you cared about Amina, you'd fix this one and we'd figure out the rest." And then Amina looked up from her kids' menu and said, "I thought you liked paying for stuff. Mom says you will because you don't have your own family." The silence cracked. Mom's hand went to her mouth. Dad looked at Amina like she'd dropped a hammer. Brielle froze. I looked Brielle in the eyes. "That," I said, "is why the payments stopped." I closed the folder, slid out of the booth, walked past the clinking plates and out into the cold. No one followed. 2 days later, the real consequences arrived, but this time, not in my inbox. The banks sent letters. The house loan had defaulted. The lease needed a new payer. My name was still on the contracts, but I'd cut off the flow. The silence from my family didn't last long. The texts came in waves. "You've ruined our credit. You're heartless. You'll regret this." But I didn't bite. I called my bank, placed formal stop payments, collected every receipt and stored them in a folder where no one could touch it again. Then, finally, the messages slowed. Mom and Dad tried to refinance. Brielle switched to a second-hand car. Amina moved to a local public school. And you know what? They all survived. Because it was never about survival. It was about control. And now, finally, my life belonged to me. I go to work. I come home. My bills reflect my life. My apartment smells like vegetables and soap. And my phone? It's quiet now. No red numbers. No emergencies. Just peace. Sometimes, I think about that little voice at the diner, repeating the lie she'd been taught. And I wonder how many others are out there, bending, breaking, shrinking, just to be needed. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. If you've ever realized that being useful isn't the same as being loved, I see you. This story is yours too. What would you have done?